What if you stumbled upon an ancient tablet covered in symbols that no one in the modern world could understand? A message from the past, whispering secrets just out of reach, locked away in a language lost to time. This isn't just the stuff of adventure movies. Across the globe, from the ruins of forgotten civilizations to the artifacts tucked away in museum vaults, there are scripts that have defied translation for centuries. These aren't mere curiosities, they're puzzles that could rewrite history, offering glimpses into cultures, beliefs, and stories we've only begun to imagine. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of undeciphered ancient scripts, the cryptic codes that continue to baffle experts and ignite our collective curiosity. Think about the last time you struggled to read someone's handwriting. Now multiply that challenge by thousands of years with no living speakers to guide us, no Rosetta Stone to act as a key. That's the reality faced by linguists and archaeologists who dedicate their lives to cracking these ancient enigmas. Take the Indus Valley script, etched onto seals and pottery over 4,000 years ago. Despite decades of study, its symbols remain a mystery. Or consider Rongorongo, the strange glyphs carved into wooden tablets on Easter Island. Could they hold the island's untold history? Or are they something even more unexpected? These aren't just academic exercises, they're a race against time as erosion, looting, and the elements threaten to erase these messages forever. But why does this matter to us today? Because language is more than just words. It's a window into how people thought, how they saw the world, and how they connected with one another. Every undeciphered script is a missing chapter in humanity's story. What if one of these texts holds the key to understanding a forgotten technology, a lost philosophy, or even an entire civilization's downfall? The thrill of the unknown pulls us in, but the potential discoveries keep us searching. So join me as we explore the most intriguing unsolved scripts, the brilliant minds trying to crack them, and the tantalizing clues that keep the mystery alive. The journey starts now. There's something deeply human about our obsession with unsolved mysteries, especially when they're etched in stone or pressed into clay. Undeciphered scripts like Linear or Rongorongo aren't just linguistic puzzles, they're time capsules, holding the thoughts, fears, and dreams of people who lived centuries or even millennia before us. Imagine holding a clay tablet covered in Linear A, the writing system of the ancient Minoans. You can see the careful strokes, the deliberate symbols, but the meaning. That's vanished, leaving behind only whispers of a civilization that influenced ancient Greece and then disappeared. What stories did they tell? What records did they keep? The silence is deafening. What makes these scripts so tantalizing is their isolation. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs, which were cracked thanks to the Rosetta Stone's bilingual inscriptions, many undeciphered scripts have no such key. Rongorongo, for example, exists only on a handful of wooden tablets from Easter Island, with no known connections to other languages. Was it a form of writing or something more ceremonial? Without context, every theory is a shot in the dark, and that's the thrill. The possibility that one breakthrough, one lucky comparison, could suddenly bring a lost world back to life. But it's not just about the intellectual challenge. These scripts are fragments of identities that history nearly erased. The Indus Valley civilization, one of the world's earliest urban societies, left behind thousands of inscriptions, yet we still don't know if they're recording trade transactions, religious texts, or something entirely unexpected. Decoding them wouldn't just solve a puzzle, it would restore voices to a people who built cities, traded across continents, and then vanished without a trace. Every undeciphered script is a reminder of how fragile our connection to the past really is, and how much we still have left to discover. The hunt for meaning is a race against time. With each passing year, artifacts erode and context fades, but the scholars who dedicate their lives to these mysteries aren't just solving riddles, they're rebuilding bridges to forgotten worlds. And who knows, the next breakthrough might be waiting in some overlooked museum archive or a newly unearthed ruin, ready to rewrite history as we know it. Picture this, a sun-baked clay tablet, its surface covered in delicate, looping symbols, some resembling abstract animals, others like geometric shapes dancing in rows. This is Linear A, the forgotten script of the Minoans, a civilization so advanced it inspired the legend of Atlantis, while its successor, Linear B, was cracked in the 1950s to reveal an early form of Greek. Linear A refuses to give up its secrets. The symbols look similar, but the language they represent, that's where the real mystery begins. What makes Linear A so frustratingly fascinating is its isolation. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform, we have no bilingual inscriptions, no Rosetta Stone to act as a linguistic bridge. Scholars can't even agree on what kind of language it encodes. Is it an ancestor of Greek, a long-lost tongue like Etruscan, or something entirely unique, a linguistic dead end? The symbols appear most often on clay tablets listing commodities like grain, oil, and figs, suggesting they tracked palace inventories. But without understanding the accompanying words, we're left guessing. Are these tax records, religious offerings, or trade agreements? The clues we do have only deepened the puzzle. Linear A shares about 80 symbols with Linear B, like a distant cousin borrowing part of the family alphabet, but attempts to apply Linear B's sound values to Linear A produce gibberish, proving the languages are worlds apart. Some researchers believe the Minoans might have repurposed their script to write Greek when Mycenaean rulers took over Crete, a cultural hack that accidentally preserved one language while burying another. Then there's the tantalizing possibility that Linear A wasn't just for accounting. A handful of inscriptions appear on ritual objects, libation tables, stone offering bowls hinting at sacred uses. Could these markings be prayers, the names of gods, or even fragments of poetry? The silence is agonizing. We can see the Minoans' elegance in their frescoes and architecture, but their words, their thoughts, remain just out of reach. Every undeciphered script is a locked door, but Linear A feels like a door with no keyhole. Statisticians have mapped symbol frequencies, computer algorithms have hunted for patterns, and linguists have tried linking it to every known language family from Anatolian to Basque. Yet the script defies them all. Maybe the answer lies in an undiscovered archive buried beneath Crete's ruins. Or maybe Linear A will forever remind us that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, that the past keeps a few secrets locked away, not out of spite, but to keep us wondering, searching, reaching. Among the great enigmas of the ancient world, few are as stubborn or as short as the Indus Valley script. Imagine an entire civilization's written legacy reduced to tiny clusters of symbols, most no longer than a grocery list. Over 4,000 inscriptions survive, etched onto delicate seals, pottery shards, and copper tablets, yet their messages remain tantalizingly out of reach. This isn't just a language barrier, it's a linguistic hall of mirrors, where every potential clue bends into new questions. What makes the Indus script so uniquely frustrating is its brevity. Most inscriptions contain fewer than 5 symbols, with the longest stretching to just 26. It's like trying to reconstruct a novel from random page fragments, or decoding a song by hearing only every third note. Without longer texts, linguists can't identify grammar, syntax, or even confirm whether these symbols represent a full writing system or a simpler proto-script. Are we looking at royal decrees, traders' marks, or sacred incantations? The symbols themselves offer hints. Fish, insects, and geometric shapes recur, but their cultural weight is anyone's guess. Theories abound, each with passionate defenders. Some scholars, noting similarities between Indus symbols and later Dravidian scripts from southern India, argue the language may be an ancestor of Tamil. Others spot parallels with Sumerian cuneiform, suggesting trade links inspired shared symbols. But without a bilingual artifact, a Rosetta Stone for the Indus, these remain speculative. Even the direction of writing is debated. Do the symbols flow right to left, left to right, or even alternate like a farmer's plow turning rows? Then there's the haunting context. The Indus Valley civilization was remarkably advanced, with grid-planned cities, drainage systems, and standardized weights. Their seals traveled as far as Mesopotamia, proving they were part of a vast trade network. How could such an organized society leave no lengthy records? One controversial theory suggests the script wasn't for prose at all, but a system of political or religious emblems, more like heraldry than literature. Yet the absence of deciphered words hasn't stopped modern technology from joining the hunt. Computer scientists have analyzed symbol patterns using algorithms designed to detect language structures, with mixed results. Some studies suggest the script shares statistical features with known languages, while others argue it's purely non-linguistic. The debate rages on, a testament to how much we still don't understand about one of humanity's first urban experiments. Perhaps the most poignant detail is this: the Indus script vanishes abruptly around 1900 BCE, around the same time the civilization itself declines. Were the last scribes carving final messages as their cities emptied? Until we crack their code, we'll never hear their side of the story, only the echo of a once great culture, whispering in symbols we can't yet understand. On a remote island in the vast Pacific, where giant stone statues stare endlessly toward the horizon, another mystery hides in plain sight: delicate glyphs carved into weathered wooden tablets. This is Rongorongo, the only known indigenous script from Oceania that remains unreadable. Unlike the towering moai that dominate Easter Island's landscape, these symbols are small, intricate, and hauntingly alive with motion. Birdmen in mid-dance, palms unfurling like fans, fishhooks and crescent moons locked in silent conversation. But what do they say? The answer might have died with the last elders who understood them, victims of the brutal slave raids and epidemics that shattered Rapa Nui society in the 1800s. What makes Rongorongo so extraordinary is its isolation. Most undeciphered scripts have relatives similar symbols in neighboring cultures, or descendants that survived into modern times. But Rongorongo exists in a vacuum, a writing system that seems to have sprouted from the island's volcanic soil with no clear ancestors. The glyphs don't match any other Polynesian traditions, leaving linguists to wonder: did the Rapa Nui invent writing independently, or was it inspired by some lost contact with the outside world? One controversial theory even suggests European sailors brought the idea of writing after the Spanish visited in 1770, though the glyphs themselves feel utterly unique to the island's mythology. Then there's the heartbreak of near misses. When missionaries first recorded the tablets in the 1860s, a handful of elders could still chant their contents aloud, but no one thought to document the translations. By the time scholars realized what had been lost, the knowledge was gone. Now, researchers must rely on painstaking pattern analysis. Some inscriptions repeat in alternating lines, like a call and response ritual. Others spiral inward like snail shells, a layout seen nowhere else in the ancient world. Could these be genealogies tracing the lineage of chiefs, or are they sacred hymns meant to be sung rather than read? The debate rages on because Rongorongo defies easy categorization. Its symbols don't neatly align with any known writing system, not logographic like Chinese, nor alphabetic like Greek. Some glyphs resemble objects, while others are pure abstraction. Even the tablets themselves tell a story. Many were repurposed, their backs carved into planks for European ships, as if the island's past was literally being overwritten by colonial forces. Today, fewer than 30 authentic tablets survive, scattered across museums from Berlin to Santiago. Each one is a fragile relic of a culture that once thrived in isolation, then collapsed under the weight of outside contact. Modern technology offers flickers of hope. High-resolution scans have revealed previously unseen details in the glyphs, while statistical analysis suggests the script follows linguistic rules, not random doodles. But without a living tradition to anchor it, Rongorongo remains a locked box, one that might hold the key to understanding how the Rapa Nui saw their world before the Moai fell silent. Every stroke of the chisel, every curve of the birdman's beak is a plea from the past. Remember us, listen. Imagine a book so baffling that even the brightest codebreakers, the same minds who cracked Nazi Enigma messages, have thrown up their hands in defeat. The Voynich Manuscript isn't just mysterious, it's an entire universe of unanswered questions bound in calfskin. Flipping through its fragile pages feels like stepping into an alternate reality. Delicate drawings of plants that don't exist, astrological diagrams with unfamiliar constellations, and hundreds of pages of text written in a script that resembles no known alphabet. Carbon dating places its creation in the early 15th century, yet every attempt to read it hits a wall. Is it an encoded scientific treatise, an elaborate medieval prank, or something even stranger? The manuscript's illustrations only thicken the plot. Botanists have spent decades trying to match its lush, otherworldly plants to real species with little success. Some leaves twist in impossible spirals, roots form geometric patterns unseen in nature. Were these meant to represent actual herbs with symbolic meaning, or are they pure fantasy? The herbal section, which makes up nearly half the book, suggests a practical purpose, perhaps a healer's guide or an alchemist's notebook. But why go to such lengths to hide ordinary knowledge? One theory posits that the manuscript's author, possibly a Renaissance-era scholar, was protecting forbidden ideas from the scrutiny of the church. Others argue the plants are allegorical, their strange forms hinting at spiritual or cosmic truths. Then there's the writing itself. Unlike gibberish, where letters clash randomly, Voynich text flows with rhythmic consistency. Words repeat in patterns that mimic natural language, with statistical frequencies resembling Latin or Arabic. Yet no linguist has found a convincing translation. Early hopefuls claimed it was a simple substitution cipher, but decades of trial and error proved otherwise. In 2017, a Canadian team applied artificial intelligence, training algorithms to recognize linguistic structures. The result, a tentative link to Hebrew, though even this breakthrough yielded only fragmented, unconvincing phrases. The harder experts look, the more the manuscript seems to taunt them, its meaning always just out of reach. Perhaps most intriguing are the sections that defy categorization. Fold-out pages reveal intricate zodiac wheels, their rings packed with tiny nude figures bathing in what might be celestial rivers. Elsewhere, dense paragraphs snake around diagrams of tubular structures, possibly representing veins, vines, or even microscopic views decades before the invention of the microscope. Could this be an early attempt to document human biology or agricultural techniques through symbolism? Or is it all an elaborate diversion, crafted by a bored nobleman with too much time and ink? Theories about the manuscript's origins range from plausible to fantastical. Some tie it to the court of Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, a patron of the occult who collected strange artifacts. Others suggest it was the work of a lone genius like the polymath Roger Bacon, writing in a self-invented code. Then there's the wilder fringe, claims that the text is Proto-Ukrainian or a message from alien visitors. What's undeniable is the manuscript's power to captivate. Housed today at Yale University, it's been scanned page by page for public study, a digital age invitation to crack a 600-year-old puzzle. In the end, the Voynich Manuscript's greatest lesson might be about the limits of human knowledge. For all our technological advances, some doors to the past remain stubbornly locked. Maybe one day, a fresh pair of eyes will spot the key hidden in plain sight, a pattern in the plants, a clue in the constellations. Until then, the manuscript sits quietly, its pages whispering secrets in a language we've yet to understand. Long before cuneiform tablets filled the archives of Mesopotamia, another script emerged in the rugged highlands of ancient Iran, one that might rewrite the story of writing itself. Proto-Ilamite, etched onto clay tablets around 3100 BCE, is a ghost of linguistic history. Its symbols flicker at the very dawn of recorded communication, yet they vanish from the archaeological record almost as quickly as they appeared. What makes this script so extraordinary isn't just its age. It's the tantalizing possibility that writing wasn't a single invention that spread from Sumer, but a spark that ignited independently in multiple places. At first glance, Proto-Elamite looks familiar. Many of its 1,600 symbols bear a striking resemblance to early Mesopotamian cuneiform, wedge-shaped marks for numbers, livestock, and commodities. But look closer and the differences emerge. The script lacks the repetitive, formulaic structure of administrative tablets from Uruk. Instead, its symbols flow in irregular clusters, as if capturing a language that danced to its own rhythm. Some researchers believe it represents an early form of Elamite, a language later spoken in the region. Others argue it could be a linguistic isolate, a forgotten tongue with no surviving relatives. Without a bilingual text or lengthy inscriptions, we're left chasing shadows. The few breakthroughs we have only deepened the mystery. Scholars have cracked the numerical system, a base 10 counting method used to track quantities of grain, livestock, and labor. These notations reveal a society deeply engaged in trade and resource management, possibly mirroring Sumer's bureaucratic complexity, but the accompanying text. That's where the real story lies buried. Are these tablets mundane warehouse inventories, or do they record treaties, myths, or even personal correspondence? The brevity of most inscriptions, often just a few lines, offers frustratingly little to work with. What happened to Proto-Elamite is just as puzzling as its content. After a mere 2 centuries of use, the script disappears, replaced by a more streamlined writing system. Was it a failed experiment, abandoned when trade with Mesopotamia demanded a common script? Or did political upheaval erase the scribes who sustained it? The answers might lie in the script's very imperfection. Unlike cuneiform, which evolved over millennia, Proto-Elamite shows little standardization. Signs shift shapes between tablets, as if scribes were inventing rules on the fly. This fluidity suggests writing was still a wild, untamed tool, not yet hardened into tradition. Deciphering Proto-Elamite wouldn't just solve a linguistic puzzle, it would open a window into a critical moment of human innovation. If this script developed independently of Sumer, it challenges the old assumption that writing was a one-time invention that spread outward. Instead, it paints a world where multiple cultures groped toward the same revolutionary idea, each in their own way. Every undeciphered symbol is a whisper from that pivotal era when marks on clay first began to carry the weight of human thought. Deep in the ruins of Crete's Phaistos Palace, buried under layers of ancient dust, archaeologists uncovered something that defied all expectations. A clay disc the size of a small plate, its surface swirling with symbols pressed into perfect spirals. The Phaistos Disc isn't just an artifact, it's a visual symphony of mystery, stamped with 241 symbols that have resisted interpretation for over a century. Unlike Linear A or B, which at least appear on multiple tablets, this disc stands alone, no duplicates, no variations, no clear ties to any other writing system from its era. It's as if someone crafted a single, deliberate message and then erased all traces of the language behind it. What makes the disc so mesmerizing is its craftsmanship. Each symbol wasn't carved or painted but pressed into the clay with individual stamps, a technique centuries ahead of its time. Imagine the precision required, a scribe carefully selecting each stamp, arranging them in a tight spiral from the edge inward, ensuring no overlap or error. The symbols themselves are miniature works of art, a running man with a feather headdress, a helmeted head, a bee, a ship, even what looks like a tambourine. But are these pictographs representing objects, or do they stand for sounds like an early alphabet? Without a Rosetta Stone for Minoan Crete, we're left guessing. Theories about the disc's purpose range from the practical to the poetic. Some scholars argue it's a religious hymn, meant to be read aloud during rituals. Others see it as an administrative tool, perhaps a calendar tracking agricultural cycles or sacred festivals. The spiral layout fuels speculation. Could it mirror the movement of celestial bodies, or was it simply an artistic choice? One daring hypothesis suggests it's a diplomatic message, sent from a distant culture with no other surviving written records. But here's the catch: if it's a message, why hasn't a single other example ever surfaced? Modern technology has only deepened the intrigue. Computer algorithms have analyzed the symbol sequences for patterns, searching for the statistical fingerprints of language. Yet the disc stubbornly resists categorization. Some sequences repeat, hinting at possible grammatical structure, but without a known language family to anchor it, even the most advanced software hits a wall. Even attempts to link it to Linear A, another undeciphered Cretan script, fall flat. The disc exists in its own linguistic universe, a closed loop of meaning. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't what the disc says, but why it's unique. Every other ancient script, no matter how obscure, appears on multiple artifacts. The Phaistos Disc, though, is a one-off. Was it a prototype, an experiment abandoned when its creator died, a sacred object never meant to be replicated? Or could there be other discs still buried, waiting to rewrite the story? For now, it sits in Crete's Heraclean Museum, a silent enigma, a message from the Minoans that we can see but not hear, a language frozen in clay, daring us to listen. The Etruscans wielded power across Italy for centuries, shaping the peninsula's art, religion, and politics. Yet today, their language feels like a locked vault. We can see their words clearly, carved into tomb walls or etched onto bronze mirrors, because they borrowed the Greek alphabet. But reading those letters aloud doesn't bring us closer to understanding. Etruscan isn't just ancient, it's an isolate, a linguistic orphan with no surviving siblings. Unlike Latin, which birthed French, Spanish, and Italian, Etruscan left no heirs. When the last fluent speaker died, the thread snapped, leaving us with fragments of a worldview that once rivaled Rome's. Most of the 8,000 surviving texts are short, practical inscriptions, names of the dead, dedications to gods, or markings on pottery. But occasionally, a longer passage emerges, teasing us with glimpses of depth. Take the Zagreb mummy, a linen burial shroud wrapped around an Egyptian mummy and later scribbled with Etruscan text. At 1,200 words, it's the longest Etruscan document ever found, likely a religious calendar or ritual guide. Yet without knowing basic words for son, king, or sacrifice, even this treasure trove remains frustratingly opaque. Imagine holding a diary where every third word is blurred. You grasp the emotion, but the details slip away. What makes Etruscan so vital is its cultural shadow. The Romans didn't just conquer the Etruscans, they absorbed their innovations from gladiatorial games to temple designs and divination practices. Even the iconic she-wolf statue, symbol of Rome's founding myth, might be an Etruscan original. But while Roman historians like Livy wrote volumes about their neighbors, they rarely recorded Etruscan speech directly. It's as if we're watching a play with only one side of the dialogue. We see the Etruscans through Roman eyes but never hear their own voices. Recent breakthroughs hint at progress. By comparing repeated phrases in funerary inscriptions, scholars have pieced together basic grammar rules. Verbs often end in e or u, for example. Bilingual texts, though rare, offer flickers of insight. The Tartaria Tablets, gold sheets inscribed in both Etruscan and Phoenician, confirm the name of the goddess Uni, equivalent to Juno. But these are flashes in the dark, not sustained illumination. The biggest hurdle: Etruscan's non-Indo-European roots mean its structure doesn't align with familiar languages like Latin or Greek. It's not just vocabulary that's missing, it's the entire mental framework. Yet the hunt continues because deciphering Etruscan would rewrite Italy's origin story. Were they indigenous or did they migrate from Lydia, as Herodotus claimed? Did their language hide clues to pre-Roman rituals, trade networks, or even lost literature? Every scratched inscription is a whisper from a civilization that refused to vanish entirely. The Romans may have erased Etruscan political power, but their legacy lingers in the arch of a bridge, the layout of a city, or the unreadable words on a tomb wall, waiting for the day we finally listen. Beneath the dense rainforests of Mexico's Gulf Coast, a civilization once thrived whose influence rippled across centuries: the Olmec. Known for their colossal stone heads and intricate jade carvings, they may have left behind something even more revolutionary: the first writing system in the Americas. The Cascadel block, a serpentine slab discovered in the 1990s, bears 62 strange glyphs arranged in orderly rows. To some, these symbols represent the birth of Mesoamerican literacy, a precursor to the intricate scripts of the Maya and Zapotec. To others, they're merely ritual markings, a false dawn of writing. The debate isn't just academic, it's a battle over how we define civilization itself. What sets the Cascadel glyphs apart is their structure. Unlike random scratches or decorative motifs, the symbols repeat in patterns, suggesting they convey deliberate meaning. Some resemble plants or tools, while others are abstract zigzags, circles, even a shape that looks like a throne. The block's discoverers argue this isn't mere proto-writing, like cave paintings or tally marks, but a true script capable of recording language. If they're right, the Olmecs were experimenting with written communication as early as 900 BCE, centuries before their neighbors. But skeptics counter that without longer texts or bilingual inscriptions, the Cascadel block could just be a ceremonial object, its words as opaque as the Olmec's vanished spoken language. The stakes are high because the Olmecs were cultural architects. Their art, religion, and urban planning laid the groundwork for every major Mesoamerican society that followed. Imagine if we could read their words. Would they explain the purpose of their massive stone heads or reveal the rituals performed in their earthen pyramids? The glyphs might even hold clues to the Olmec's sudden decline around 400 BCE, a collapse that echoes later in the Maya's own mysterious downfall. But with only a handful of inscriptions surviving, the script exists in fragments, like pages torn from a history book. One tantalizing clue lies in later Mesoamerican writing systems. Maya glyphs for day names and calendar symbols bear a faint resemblance to Olmec motifs, hinting at an unbroken thread of knowledge passed down through generations. Could the Cascadal block be the missing link in this chain? Or was Olmec writing a dead end, a fleeting experiment erased by time? The jungle has a way of swallowing secrets, and until more texts emerge, the glyphs remain a Rorschach test. What we see in them says as much about our hunger for answers as it does about the Olmecs themselves. What's certain is that the Cascadal block forces us to rethink the timeline of innovation. If this is writing, it didn't spread outward from a single source like the Middle East's Fertile Crescent, but bubbled up independently in the Americas, proof that human ingenuity ignites in unexpected places. Every undeciphered symbol is a challenge, a dare to look beyond what we think we know about the past. And somewhere in the humid ruins of Veracruz, there might still be another stone, another clue, waiting to tip the scales in this centuries-old debate. Tucked away in a Hungarian library, the Rohunk Codex is the kind of mystery that keeps linguists awake at night. Imagine flipping through 448 pages of dense, handwritten symbols unlike anything seen before, each line curling into the next like vines on an ancient trellis. The illustrations only deepen the intrigue. Crosses stand beside crescent moons, knights joust under what might be zodiac signs, and biblical scenes blur into imagery that feels straight out of a medieval alchemist's dream. Is this a sacred text, a coded political manifesto, or an elaborate Renaissance-era hoax? After 2 centuries of study, no one can say for certain. What makes the Codex so baffling is its cultural kaleidoscope. Most undeciphered scripts emerge from a single cultural context, but this manuscript refuses to fit neatly into any box. Its drawings fuse Christian iconography with symbols resembling Ottoman art and pagan folklore, as if the creator borrowed freely from every tradition along the Danube. The script itself is even more enigmatic, 200 symbols, some resembling runes, others like abstract sketches of birds or tools. Unlike the Voynich Manuscript, whose symbols at least follow statistical patterns suggesting language, the Rohunk script defies even that basic logic. Some researchers argue it's a cipher, while others insist it's a dead language with no surviving relatives. Dating the Codex only adds to the confusion. Watermark analysis points to the 16th or 17th century, but the content could be older, copied from a lost original. The few clues we have only spin more theories. One page shows a battle scene with shields bearing what might be Hungarian clan insignia, fueling speculation it's a chronicle of local history. Another depicts a peculiar sun tree motif scene in Transylvanian folk art. Yet without understanding the text, these images are like pieces from different puzzles, vivid but impossible to connect. Then there's the forgery angle. The Codex first surfaced in the 1800s, a time when wealthy collectors paid handsomely for exotic curiosities. Could it be an elaborate fake, crafted to dupe some gullible aristocrat? Modern analysis complicates that theory. The ink and parchment are period appropriate, and the sheer volume of text would make fabrication a staggering undertaking. Still, the possibility lingers, a shadow over every attempted translation. Perhaps the most tantalizing breakthrough came in 2018, when a team proposed that the script might be a form of shorthand for Old Hungarian, with symbols representing syllables rather than letters. But like all theories before it, this one crumbled under scrutiny. The Codex resists every key, every algorithm, every scholarly hunch. For now, it sits in the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, its pages whispering in a language that might be genius, madness, or both, a reminder that some stories refuse to be read. Picture a vast empire stretching across mountains and deserts, ruled without a single sheet of paper or stroke of a pen. The Inca built one of history's most sophisticated civilizations, with no apparent writing system. Or so we thought. Hidden in plain sight were the Quipus, intricate arrangements of knotted cords that served as the empire's administrative backbone. For centuries, scholars assumed these were simple accounting tools, tallying crops, livestock, and labor. But what if the Quipus held stories, laws, even poetry, transforming from bureaucratic records into a three-dimensional language waiting to be untangled? The magic of Quipus lies in their complexity. Each knot's position, the cord's color, even the direction of the twist could carry meaning. Imagine a spreadsheet where numbers aren't just digits but layers of context. A red cord might signify warriors, while its knots record battles won. Yellow could trace gold shipments, with knot clusters noting weight and origin. But recent discoveries hint at something far richer. Some Quipus defy numerical patterns entirely, their knots arranged in sequences that echo linguistic structures. Could these be narratives frozen in fiber? The challenge is monumental. When Spanish conquistadors toppled the Inca Empire in the 16th century, they systematically destroyed Quipus as relics of pagan governance. Only about 600 survive today, many cut from their original context. Even more devastating was the loss of the Quipucamayos, the trained knot keepers who could read them. Without these living translators, we're left with a puzzle missing half its pieces. Modern researchers are racing to reconstruct the system, comparing Quipus to colonial-era documents that mention their content. One breakthrough came in 2017, when anthropologists linked a Quipu's knots to a Spanish census of an Andean village, proving it recorded not just quantities but names and social roles. Then there's the tantalizing possibility of narrative Quipus. In a remote Peruvian village, oral histories speak of Quipus that chronicled myths and dynastic histories, a claim supported by odd, non-numerical specimens in museum collections. One theory suggests colors represented syllables, turning chords into phonetic chains. Another proposes that knot clusters functioned like logograms, with each combination standing for a word or concept. If true, the Inca didn't just invent a writing system. They engineered one that could be felt in the dark, carried over mountains, and preserved for centuries without fading. Decoding even a single narrative Quipu would rewrite Andean history. Suddenly, those silent knots might whisper the Incas' version of their own conquest, or hymns to the sun god Inti, or the daily rhythms of life in Machu Picchu. Every surviving Quipu is a time capsule, its threads woven with the thoughts of people who saw the world not in ink, but in wool and wisdom. The question isn't just whether we can read them, it's what they'll tell us when we finally do. Among the world's undeciphered scripts, Linear Elamite stands at a tantalizing crossroads, partially understood, yet holding secrets that could reshape our view of the ancient Near East. Unlike Proto-Ilamite, its older, more cryptic predecessor, Linear Elamite, shows glimmers of clarity. A handful of bilingual inscriptions, like the silver vase of King Kutik-Inshushinak, offer precious anchor points. These artifacts pair Elamite symbols with Akkadian cuneiform, giving scholars just enough footing to identify royal names, titles, and a scattering of verbs. But the script's full potential remains locked away, a linguistic treasure chest waiting for the right key. What makes Linear Elamite so compelling is its hybrid nature. Some symbols function as logograms representing whole words or concepts, while others seem to encode syllables, a versatility echoing early Sumerian cuneiform. This sophistication suggests the Elamites weren't just borrowing writing, They were adapting it, refining it to fit their own tongue. Take the symbol resembling a spouted vessel. In one context, it might mean water, while in another, it could signal a syllable like wa. Such flexibility hints at a culture deeply invested in communication, one that saw writing as more than just bureaucratic shorthand. The stakes of decipherment go beyond grammar. The Elamites were major players in the Bronze Age, clashing with Babylon and trading as far as the Indus Valley. Their capital, Susa, thrived as a melting pot of cultures. If we could read their inscriptions fluently, we might uncover diplomatic letters, religious hymns, or even merchant contracts that reveal how goods and ideas flowed between Mesopotamia and South Asia. Did they mediate conflicts between Sumer and the Indus? Were their temples home to rituals that influenced later Zoroastrian traditions? Linear Elamite symbols could hold answers. Recent claims of a full decipherment have sparked both excitement and skepticism. In 2022, a team proposed translations for over 90% of the script signs, linking them to known Elamite words. Critics argue the methodology relies too heavily on assumptions, like forcing symbols to match later Elamite dialects, but even cautious scholars admit the effort marks progress. Every contested translation adds another piece to the puzzle, whether it sticks or not. The real breakthrough may come from an unexpected corner, perhaps an overlooked tablet in a museum basement, or a new excavation in Iran's Khuzestan province. Until then, Linear Elamite lingers in that thrilling limbo between mystery and revelation, a reminder that some of history's loudest voices are still struggling to be heard. Buried beneath the waters of a Neolithic lakeshore in northern Greece, the Despilio tablet emerged as a quiet revolution. At over 7,000 years old, this fragment of wood, charred but still bearing strange carved symbols, predates the earliest known Sumerian writing by more than 2 millennia. If these markings are indeed writing, not mere decoration or tally marks, they shatter the long-held belief that literacy began in Mesopotamia. The symbols themselves are deceptively simple, geometric lines, branching patterns, and shapes resembling rudimentary trees or tools. But their arrangement feels deliberate, repeating in sequences that echo the rhythm of language rather than random scratches. What makes the tablet so provocative is its isolation. Unlike cuneiform or hieroglyphs, which evolved gradually through thousands of administrative tablets, the Despilio markings appear almost fully formed, then vanish from the archaeological record. No other artifacts from the same period in Europe show similar signs. Was this a lone scribe's experiment, a fleeting attempt to capture speech in symbols, or does it hint at a broader tradition lost to time, its wooden counterparts rotted away in the damp soil of Neolithic villages? The debate hinges on a razor's edge. Without more examples, the line between proto-writing and true literacy blurs. Critics point to the tablet's simplicity. Unlike later scripts with hundreds of signs, Despilio's repertoire is small, perhaps too limited to convey complex thought. But consider this: early Sumerian cuneiform began with just a few dozen symbols, used primarily for accounting. Could Despilio represent a similar starting point, abruptly cut short by cultural collapse or environmental change? The tablet's discovery in a lakeside settlement adds weight to this theory. Such communities were hubs of innovation, where fishing nets, pottery, and woven textiles suggest a society ripe for symbolic communication. Then there's the haunting context of its preservation. The tablet was found among the remains of a stilt house, carbonized in a fire that ironically saved it from decay. Nearby artifacts, clay figurines, bone tools paint a picture of daily life, but nothing else bears writing. This absence fuels speculation. Were the markings sacred, reserved for rituals we can't reconstruct? Or practical, perhaps labeling stored goods in a communal space? The answers may lie in the symbols themselves. One recurring motif looks strikingly like a fish, a logical focus for a lakeside culture. Another resembles a vessel, possibly a grain measure. If these are indeed logograms, they could reflect the pragmatic origins of writing everywhere, born not from poetry, but from the need to count and trade. Modern technology offers flickers of hope. High-resolution scans have revealed microscopic tool marks, proving the symbols were carefully incised, not hastily scratched. Statistical analysis of their sequences suggests non-random patterns, though whether these reflect language or some other system remains unclear. The biggest obstacle is the tablet's fragility. Each handling risks irreversible damage, leaving many questions suspended in cautious silence. The Despilio tablet forces us to confront a radical idea, that writing may have been invented multiple times in multiple places, only to be forgotten or overshadowed. Its symbols whisper of a road not taken, a parallel timeline where Europe's first farmers might have sparked a literary tradition millennia before Homer. Until more evidence surfaces, the tablet stands alone, a wooden enigma challenging us to rethink where and how the story of writing truly began. Along the bustling coast of ancient Biblos, where cedar ships carried goods from Egypt to the Aegean, a peculiar set of inscriptions surfaced, carved into stone, bronze, and even a single royal spatula. The Biblos Syllabary doesn't just tease us with its mystery, it taunts us with its almost familiarity. Its 114 signs look like hieroglyphs that took a wrong turn, some echoing Egyptian bird symbols, others resembling the angular strokes of Cretan scripts. But the language they encode, that's where the trail goes cold. Found in the 2nd millennium BCE, these inscriptions are like a linguistic mirage, close enough to recognize, yet too faint to decipher. Could this be the missing link between Egyptian picture writing and the revolutionary Phoenician alphabet? The script's hybrid nature fuels the debate. Take the sign of a walking lion, a motif straight out of Egyptian temples, but here it might represent a syllable in a Semitic tongue like early Canaanite. Other symbols, like a branching tree or a zigzagging river, feel like universal shorthand, yet their precise meanings are locked away. What's maddening is the scarcity. Only 10 inscriptions survive, most just a few lines long. It's like trying to reconstruct a novel from random post-it notes, but even these fragments hint at something transformative. The syllabary's mix of logograms, whole word symbols, and phonetic signs mirrors the same evolutionary leap that turned cuneiform into a flexible writing tool. Was Biblos a crossroads of cultures where this idea first took root? Then there's the Phoenician connection. Centuries after the syllabary faded, Biblos became a powerhouse of the Phoenician alphabet, the system that gave us A, B, and every letter you're reading now. Some scholars spot echoes of syllabary signs in early Phoenician characters, like a shared genetic code. But without a bilingual inscription, a Rosetta Stone for Biblos, the theory remains a tantalizing what if. The syllabary could be a dead-end experiment, or it might hold the key to understanding how hieroglyphs shed their pictorial skin to become abstract letters. The real tragedy is the lost context. Biblos was a hub where Egyptian scribes, Cretan traders, and Semitic speakers collided. If the syllabary was a bridge between these worlds, its inscriptions might record treaties, myths, or merchant ledgers, stories now silenced. One bronze tablet found in a temple ruin bears a sequence of signs that recur like a chorus. Is it a king's dedication to a god, or a merchant's plea for safe passage? Until another tablet surfaces from Lebanon's soil or a museum vault, the syllabary remains a ghost in the machine of writing's history, a whisper of how close we came to losing the alphabet before it was even born. Standing at the mouth of the Singapore River, a weathered sandstone slab once bore witness to a forgotten chapter of history, until progress literally blew it apart. The Singapore stone, as it's now known, was dynamited in 1843 to make way for a harbor expansion, leaving behind only a few jagged fragments etched with cryptic symbols. These surviving pieces, now housed in Singapore's National Museum, hold a script that defies easy classification. Some scholars see hints of Old Javanese, others trace curves reminiscent of early Sanskrit, while a few argue the markings belong to a linguistic dead end, a script born and buried on that very shoreline. What's certain is this: the stone's near-total destruction isn't just an archaeological tragedy, it's a stark reminder of how carelessly we've treated the threads connecting us to the past. The stone's origins are as murky as the waters it once overlooked. Based on weathering patterns and historical context, experts date it between the 10th and 14th centuries, when Singapore, or Temasek, as it was then called, was a thriving port between the Srivijayan and Majapahit empires. Imagine the scene: sailors from Java, traders from Champa, and envoys from Siam passing this very stone, perhaps pausing to read its message. Was it a boundary marker declaring the authority of a local chieftain, a hymn to the sea gods carved by merchants grateful for safe passage, or even a treaty sealing an alliance lost to time? The stone's placement at the river's entrance suggests it was meant to be seen, its words carrying public weight. But with 90% of the inscription reduced to rubble, we're left with disconnected phrases, like overhearing half a conversation in a language no one speaks anymore. Modern technology has tried valiantly to bridge the gap. High-resolution scans and 3D modeling have reconstructed the fragment's textures down to the tool marks left by ancient hands. Yet no algorithm can conjure the missing text or the cultural context that gave it meaning. The stone's fate mirrors other near misses in archaeology, like the Rosetta Stone, which narrowly escaped being ground into mortar during the rebuilding of a fort, or the Phaistos inscription, almost obliterated by railroad construction. Each of these survivals was a stroke of luck, a reminder that history hangs by a thread. What makes the Singapore stone uniquely haunting is its role in a larger puzzle. Similar scripts appear scattered across maritime Southeast Asia, on the Laguna copper plate in the Philippines, the Pasir Panjang stone in Indonesia, hinting at a shared system of writing that predated European colonization. Could decoding this fragment reveal a network of communication linking ancient ports from Sumatra to Luzon? The answer might have been there, in the lines pulverized by 19th century dynamite. Today, the stone's remnants sit silently in their museum case, a monument not just to what we've lost, but to the fragile nature of memory itself. Deep in the soil of a Romanian village, 3 small clay tablets emerged in 1961, each no larger than a palm, each etched with strange, looping symbols. Known as the Tartaria Tablets, these unassuming artifacts ignited a firestorm in archaeology. If their markings are genuine writing, they'd rewrite history, predating Mesopotamian cuneiform by 2,000 years. But here's the catch: no one can agree if they're a groundbreaking discovery or an elaborate misdirection. The symbols themselves are hauntingly deliberate spirals, crosses, and shapes resembling animals or tools arranged in neat rows. To believers, they're the fingerprints of the Vinca culture, a Neolithic society that flourished along the Danube. To skeptics, they're either random pottery marks or clever forgeries planted to deceive. The controversy starts with the excavation. Unlike meticulously documented digs, the tablets were reportedly found in a pit alongside human bones and a clay figurine, but the records are frustratingly vague. No photographs, no stratigraphic drawings, just handwritten notes open to interpretation. This murky provenance fuels doubts. Could the tablets have been misplaced from a later layer? Or worse, intentionally salted to attract attention. The Vinca culture itself adds to the mystery. They left behind stunning pottery and copper tools, but no other evidence of writing. Why would a script appear fully formed on 3 tablets, then vanish without a trace? It's like finding a single page of Shakespeare in a cave with no other plays in sight. Then there's the script's eerie resemblance to later writing systems. Some symbols look like early Sumerian numerals, while others echo motifs from Minoan Crete. Coincidence or proof of a lost network of Neolithic communication? Linguists remain divided. Statistical analysis suggests the symbols aren't random. They cluster in ways that mimic language. Yet without more examples, even the most sophisticated software hits a wall. The closest parallel might be the Despilio tablet from Greece, another solitary artifact with cryptic markings. Both hint at a tantalizing possibility, that writing wasn't born once in Mesopotamia, but sparked independently across Europe, only to flicker out. The hoax theory can't be dismissed outright. The mid-20th century saw a surge in sensational archaeological claims, from the Piltdown Man to the Tiara of Saitaphones. Could the tablets be part of this era's appetite for paradigm-shifting finds? Yet radiocarbon dating of associated bones places them firmly in the 5th millennium BC, making forgery harder to swallow. Unless, of course, someone went to extraordinary lengths to plant authentic-looking artifacts, a scheme almost as fascinating as the script itself. What's at stake isn't just the authenticity of 3 clay pieces, but our understanding of human innovation. If the Tartaria Tablets are real, they suggest that the urge to write, to fix thought in physical form, is older and more universal than we dreamed. Perhaps the Vinca didn't need lengthy texts. Their symbols might have served ritual purposes like the sacred shorthand of later cultures. Or maybe we've simply failed to recognize their writing elsewhere, mistaking it for decoration. Until another tablet surfaces one with undeniable context, the debate will rage on. For now, these tiny clay fragments sit at the edge of history, whispering a question we can't yet answer. Did the Neolithic world speak in symbols we've forgotten how to read? Buried in the darkness of a sacred Minoan cave, the Arcolacori Axe gleams with unanswered questions. Unearthed in Crete's Arcolacori cave alongside dozens of other ritual offerings, swords, daggers, and golden cups, this bronze axe stands apart. Its blade bears 15 crisp symbols, carefully incised as if each stroke carried weight. Some signs echo the spirals and bird-like shapes of Linear A, while others mirror the cryptic glyphs of the Phaistos Disc. But this isn't just another administrative list or royal decree. The axe's presence in a cave sanctuary, surrounded by treasures meant for the gods, suggests something far more intimate, a whispered prayer cast in metal. What sets the Arcolacori Axe apart is its stark simplicity. Unlike the lengthy tablets of Linear A, this inscription is brief, almost abrupt. Were these symbols a dedicatory label, like a gift tag reading "to Zeus" or "for the Earth Shaker"? Or did they serve a more mystical purpose, perhaps a chant or invocation meant to empower the axe as it was offered? The cave itself adds layers to the mystery. Sacred to the Minoans, it was a liminal space where the human world touched the divine. Ritual axes like this one might have been used in ceremonies, their blades never meant to strike flesh but to channel something far more potent, the favor of unseen forces. The symbols themselves tease with half-clues. One resembles the linear, a sign for God, while another looks like a truncated version of the Phaistos Disc's shield glyph. But without more context, these parallels could be mirages. The axe's inscription is too short to apply statistical decipherment methods, leaving scholars to play a high-stakes game of linguistic connect-the-dots. Even the axe's craftsmanship hints at deeper meaning. The precision of the engraving suggests a skilled hand, someone who understood the power of symbols to bridge worlds. Was this the work of a priest, a royal artisan, or perhaps a devotee pleading for protection? What's haunting is how close we are, and yet how far. The Minoans left us sprawling palaces, vibrant frescoes, and intricate jewelry, but their words remain just out of reach. The Arcolacori Axe is a perfect microcosm of this frustration. We can see the devotion in its gleaming surface, the care in its symbols, but the message itself is frozen in time. Every attempt to read it feels like pressing an ear to a sealed door, straining for voices that faded millennia ago. Perhaps the axe's true power lies in what it represents, the human urge to mark moments of transcendence. Whether its inscription records a name, a prayer, or something we haven't yet imagined, it's a testament to the Minoans' desire to speak to the divine and to ensure their words outlasted them. Until another artifact emerges to break the silence, the axe remains a solitary sentinel, guarding secrets we may never fully unravel. High on the rocky face of a Bulgarian cave where sunlight barely reaches, a set of ancient symbols clings to the stone, carved so precisely they seem to pulse with intention. This is the Satovo Inscription, a string of 21 characters that defy easy categorization. Some letters look like they've wandered in from a Greek trader's ledger, others echo the angular strokes of Phrygian script, while a few stand utterly alone, as if invented on the spot. Dating back nearly 3,000 years, this cryptic message is a linguistic chameleon, shifting its identity depending on who's looking. Is it a territorial claim, a plea to the gods, or the graffiti of a restless traveler leaving their mark in the dark? The inscription's isolation is what makes it so tantalizing. Unlike linear B or cuneiform, which appear across hundreds of artifacts, Satovo's symbols have no siblings, no matching texts found in nearby ruins or traded goods. It's as if someone carved a single page from a lost book and then burned the rest. Linguists have scrambled to find parallels, with some suggesting links to the Thracians, a people known for their gold work but not their writing. Others spot similarities to a handful of Phrygian inscriptions found in modern-day Turkey, raising questions about cultural exchange along ancient trade routes. But without a bilingual key or even a second example, every theory hangs by a thread. Proposed translations range from the pragmatic to the poetic. One bold attempt reads it as a boundary marker, "This land belongs to," followed by an unreadable name. Another interprets it as a votive offering, perhaps invoking a local deity like Zis or Bendis, gods of the Thracian pantheon. The most haunting theory, that it's a funerary inscription, a whisper from someone buried nearby, their words meant to guide the dead through the underworld. The truth might be simpler or stranger. Could this be a cipher, a coded message between rebels or merchants hiding their dealings? The cave's location, tucked away from major settlements, adds weight to the idea of secrecy. Time is the real enemy here. Wind and water have already softened the inscription's edges, blurring characters that were once sharp. Unlike clay tablets sheltered in ruins, this message is exposed, its surface flaking away with each passing season. Archaeologists have made 3D scans, hoping to preserve its contours, but technology can't replace the urgency of decipherment. Every faded stroke is a word lost, a clue crumbling before we grasp its meaning. What lingers is the human impulse behind the marks. Someone stood in this cave millennia ago, chisel in hand, determined to make their words outlast them. Whether they were a lone wanderer or part of a forgotten scribbled tradition, their message bridges the centuries, silent but insistent, until another inscription surfaces, or until the last trace of this one vanishes. The Satovo inscription remains a riddle wrapped in stone, urging us to listen before it's too late. In a world where artificial intelligence can compose symphonies and diagnose diseases, it was only a matter of time before researchers turned to the ultimate challenge, teaching machines to read the unreadable. The marriage of cutting-edge technology and ancient scripts might sound like science fiction, but teams around the globe are now training neural networks to spot patterns invisible to the human eye. Take Google's DeepMind, which made headlines by identifying subtle grammatical structures in Linear B, the same script that took human scholars decades to crack. Yet for every success, there's a sobering reality. AI thrives on data, and the rarest artifacts in archaeology are lengthy bilingual texts. A child learns language by hearing millions of words, but an algorithm deciphering Rongorongo might have fewer samples than a single children's book. The promise lies in collaboration. Linguists bring centuries of collective knowledge about how languages evolve, how verbs conjugate, how nouns decline, while programmers design algorithms to test thousands of hypotheses in seconds. At MIT, researchers fed an AI every known undeciphered script alongside related languages, hoping it would spot hidden bridges. The results, glimmers of recognition, like an algorithm tentatively linking Indus Valley symbols to Proto-Dravidian roots based on symbol frequency and positioning. But these connections remain probabilistic, not proven. The machine might flag a potential relationship, but it still takes a human to ask, does this make historical sense? Then there's the problem of ambiguity. Human writing is messy, full of puns, poetic license, and cultural shorthand. The Phaistos Disc spirals might encode a sacred hymn, but an AI trained on tax records would miss the metaphor. Projects like the Vienna-based Scan of the Month counter this by crowdsourcing high-resolution images of artifacts, allowing both algorithms and amateur sleuths to scour them for overlooked details. One volunteer recently noticed faint strike marks on the Arcolacori Axe that previous scans had missed evidence the symbols were hammered, not carved, possibly during a ritual. The most exciting frontier is generative AI's ability to imagine missing fragments. By analyzing thousands of inscribed artifacts, systems can now predict how a broken tablet's text might have continued, or reconstruct faded ink on papyrus. In Oxford, a neural network proposed possible completions for the truncated Singapore stone inscription, offering phrases that aligned with old Javanese maritime terminology. Of course, these are educated guesses, but so were the first stabs at translating Egyptian hieroglyphs before the Rosetta Stone appeared. Yet for all its potential, AI has limits no algorithm can overcome. Language isn't just math, it's culture, emotion, and context. A machine might statistically link the Tartaria Tablets symbols to Sumerian numbers, but could it grasp if those marks were sacred or practical? The true breakthrough may come not from replacing scholars, but arming them with tools to test ideas at unprecedented speed. Right now, in labs from Kyoto to Cambridge, that partnership is unfolding, one where silicon processors and human curiosity work in tandem, each doing what they do best. The next Rosetta Stone might not be dug from the earth, but rendered on a screen, its secrets teased out by the tireless dance of code and centuries-old intuition. The Rosetta Stone didn't just unlock Egyptian hieroglyphs, it rewrote the rules of decipherment. Imagine holding a key that fits 3 locks at once, one you recognize, one you've seen before but couldn't open, and one that's entirely alien. That's the power of a bilingual text. The stone's genius lay in its redundancy. The same decree carved in Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs gave scholars a linguistic mirror, reflecting how sounds and ideas translated across scripts. But here's the catch: most undeciphered languages don't come with such a cheat sheet. They're solitary puzzles, their symbols whispering in dialects we no longer hear. Occasionally, luck offers a flicker of hope. Take the Behistun inscription, a cliffside monument in Iran where Persian King Darius the Great boasted of his victories in 3 tongues: Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian. Like the Rosetta Stone, it became a cipher's dream. Once scholars cracked Old Persian, the other scripts tumbled like dominoes, but such finds are vanishingly rare. For every Behistun, there are dozens of scripts like Rongorongo or the Indus Valley symbols, stranded without a bilingual lifeline. Even short bilingual inscriptions, like the Tartaria Tablets pairing of Etruscan and Phoenician, can be transformative. A single matching phrase might reveal how a culture named their gods or recorded a king's reign, offering a toehold in an otherwise sheer cliff face of uncertainty. Without these Rosetta moments, researchers resort to detective work of the most painstaking kind. Consider the quest to decode Linear B. Before Michael Ventress's breakthrough in the 1950s, scholars spent decades tallying symbol frequencies, mapping how signs clustered like constellations in the clay. They noticed certain glyphs often appeared at the beginnings of lines, hinting at verbs or titles, while others trailed like suffixes. It was linguistic astronomy, studying the orbits of symbols to guess their gravitational pull. But here's the rub: Linear B had the advantage of being related to Greek. For truly isolated scripts like Proto-Ilamite or the Singapore Stone's markings, there's no familiar grammar or vocabulary to anchor the hunt. The stakes of finding another Rosetta-style key are almost unimaginable. Picture unearthing a tablet where Linear sits side by side with Mycenaean Greek, or a step monument pairing Indus symbols with Akkadian. Overnight, libraries of untranslated texts could snap into focus, revealing everything from mundane tax receipts to epic poetry. Until then, decipherment remains a high-wire act, a blend of statistical analysis, historical context, and sheer intuition. Every potential clue, from the repetition of symbols in ritual objects to the spacing of glyphs on a palace wall, becomes a thread in a tapestry we're still learning to weave. The Rosetta Stone taught us that languages, no matter how ancient, yearn to be understood. The challenge isn't just finding another stone, it's listening for echoes in the silence. Decoding an ancient script isn't just about matching symbols to sounds. It's like stepping into a foreign country where every gesture, every tradition holds hidden meaning. Take the Rongorongo glyphs of Easter Island. That striking birdman figure could be a god, a clan leader, or even a metaphor for the soul's journey. Without the cultural lens of the Rapa Nui people, we're left guessing. This is the invisible wall that stumps linguists. Words don't exist in a vacuum. They're woven into rituals, inside jokes, and shared histories that vanish when a civilization collapses. Early attempts to crack the Maya script stumbled over this very hurdle. Scholars armed with European perspectives saw their elaborate glyphs as celestial calendars, missing the political drama encoded within the boasts of kings, the records of conquests. It wasn't until archaeologists paired inscriptions with murals and temple reliefs that the truth emerged. These weren't just star charts, but propaganda, poetry, and legal documents. A single glyph like Chob might mean penance in one context and royal bloodletting ceremony in another, depending on whether it's carved in a palace or painted on a vase. The stakes of cultural misreading are high. Imagine translating the Bible without knowing parables, or Shakespeare without grasping Elizabethan humor. For the Indus Valley script, this problem is acute. Those tiny, cryptic symbols might encode anything from grain taxes to hymns, but with no surviving myths or art to anchor them, every theory floats in midair. Even the direction of writing is debated. Does a fish symbol point to a profession, a deity, or a family name? Without the lived context of Mohenjo-Daro's streets, we're assembling a jigsaw with half the pieces missing. This is where anthropology becomes as vital as linguistics. When scholars deciphered the Maya death glyph, they didn't just analyze strokes, they studied burial rites, skeletal remains, and even modern descendant traditions. Similarly, the Phaistos Disc spiral symbols might click into place if we understood Minoan trade routes or festival cycles. Was that shield glyph a military rank or part of a ritual dance costume? The answer could lie in fresco fragments or pottery shards gathering dust in a museum basement. Technology offers new ways to bridge these gaps. Spectral imaging can reveal faded temple murals that once accompanied inscriptions, while isotope analysis of bones links burial inscriptions to migration patterns. But the human element remains irreplaceable. The Zapotec script of ancient Mexico only began yielding secrets when linguists collaborated with modern Zapotec speakers, uncovering echoes of ancestral wordplay. Every undeciphered script is a conversation frozen mid-sentence, waiting for someone to reconstruct the other half of the dialogue. What's clear is this: cracking a lost language demands more than brilliance, it requires humility. We have to silence our assumptions and listen for the whispers of cultures that saw the world differently. A single glyph might carry the weight of 1,000 unspoken stories, and until we learn to hear them, those stories remain untold. Imagine stumbling upon a handwritten journal filled with looping, elegant symbols only to realize the writer never intended for anyone else to understand it. This is the razor's edge that haunts decipherment. Not every sequence of symbols is a language waiting to be read. Some are elaborate ciphers, personal shorthand, or even deliberate fabrications designed to baffle. Take the Codex Seraphinianus, a 20th century art project masquerading as an alien encyclopedia. Its flowing script and surreal illustrations feel like a lost language until you learn the creator admitted it was pure nonsense. The difference between cipher and script isn't just academic. It's the difference between a locked door and a door that leads nowhere. Ciphers thrive on deception. Medieval monks encoded herbal remedies to guard trade secrets, while Renaissance diplomats scrambled messages with cipher wheels to outmaneuver rivals. These systems expect decoding just by the right people, but genuine scripts, even undeciphered ones, follow linguistic rules. The Voynich Manuscript straddles this line. Its word repetitions and sentence-like structures hint at language, yet no alphabet or grammar fits. Some theorists argue it's an uncrackable cipher, its patterns carefully crafted to mimic communication. Others point to statistical quirks like how certain words appear only in botanical sections as proof of real meaning. The truth might lie in between, a constructed language or kunlang, like Tolkien's Elvish, invented for private use or artistic flair. Then there's the ghost of context. A 15th century merchant's ledger might use shorthand symbols for barrel of salt that look like script but function as memos. The infamous Dorabella cipher, a string of squiggles penned by composer Edward Elgar, has resisted interpretation for over a century. Was it a love note, a musical cipher, or just doodles? Without the creator's key, we're left projecting meaning onto randomness. The stakes of misclassification are high. Spend decades hunting grammar in a cipher and you'll chase ghosts. Dismiss a script as gibberish and you might ignore a lost civilization's voice. Take the Phaistos Disc. Its stamped symbols suggest mass production, implying a shared writing system. But if it's a one-off cipher, say, a royal decree meant for a single scribe's eyes, then every attempt to read it as Linear A's cousin is doomed. Technology can't always settle the debate. AI trained on known languages might flag the Indus script as communicative, but without cultural context, we can't rule out an elaborate accounting code. Even the presence of nonsense inscriptions in ancient ruins complicates things. Were these scribble exercises, ritual incantations, or inside jokes carved in stone? What saves scholars from despair is the outliers. The Rohunk Codex's symbols initially seemed random, until researchers noticed recurring clusters that matched Hungarian folktale structures. It's a reminder that today's gibberish could be tomorrow's Rosetta Stone, if we stay open to the possibility that behind every cipher, there might just be a voice pleading to be heard. The moment a long-lost script yields its secrets, a new question emerges: who has the right to speak for the voices resurrected from the past? Consider Rongorongo, the enigmatic glyphs of Easter Island. For the Rapa Nui people, these carvings aren't just historical curiosities. They're sacred heirlooms, fragments of a cultural identity nearly erased by colonial exploitation. When outsiders attempt to decode them, it's not merely an academic exercise, it's an act of reclamation or appropriation, depending on who you ask. Indigenous communities worldwide increasingly demand sovereignty over their ancestral knowledge, arguing that decipherment without consent risks distorting their heritage or exposing sensitive traditions to misuse. The very act of translation becomes a political battleground where linguistic breakthroughs must navigate ethical minefields. Museums housing undeciphered artifacts face mounting scrutiny. The British Museum's possession of the Rosetta Stone, seized from Egypt under colonial rule, has long been contentious, but what happens when the next Rosetta emerges from a looted tomb or contested dig site? Institutions argue that centralized collections enable research, while source nations counter that artifacts lose context when divorced from their homeland. The case of the Phaistos Disc is telling. Discovered by Italian archaeologists in Crete, it now resides in Greece, but Minoan descendants are a people lost to time. Who, then, speaks for the disc's legacy? The debate extends beyond physical ownership to digital realms, as high-resolution scans allow global access while potentially sidelining local scholars lacking resources. Then there's the commercialization of decipherment, when tech companies develop AI to crack ancient scripts. Who profits from the knowledge uncovered? Patent disputes over translation algorithms like those used on Linear Elamite raise unsettling parallels to bioprospecting, where corporations monetize indigenous plants. Should a university holding the copyright to a decoded Indus Valley text charge royalties for its publication? The line between preservation and exploitation blurs when cultural heritage becomes intellectual property. Even well-intentioned efforts can backfire. Crowdsourced decipherment projects might inadvertently expose sacred texts to misuse, or worse, reduce them to viral puzzles stripped of reverence. The stakes crystallized in 2019 when a team decoding Zapotec script partnered directly with Oaxacan communities, embedding local elders in the research process. This model, slow, collaborative, and consensual, offers a blueprint for ethical engagement, but it's far from universal. For every inclusive project, there's a race to first publish that sidelines stakeholders. The allure of academic fame or lucrative patents tempts researchers to treat undeciphered scripts as inert challenges rather than living heritage. At its core, this isn't just about who holds the artifacts or patents, it's about who controls the narrative. Decipherment doesn't happen in a vacuum. It shapes how histories are written and whose voices are amplified. A script cracked without context might reduce a civilization's poetry to tax records, or worse, impose foreign frameworks onto its worldview. The true test of progress isn't just technical mastery, but humility, recognizing that some keys belong to the descendants of those who first forged them. The next breakthrough won't be measured in symbols translated. but in bridges built between past and present on terms the past would recognize. The quest to unlock these ancient scripts isn't just about solving puzzles. It's about restoring humanity's collective memory, one glyph at a time. Think of the scholars who spent decades staring at Linear B before Michael Ventris connected it to Greek, or the cryptographers who still lose sleep over the Voynich Manuscript's botanical riddles. Every dead end is its own kind of discovery, proving that language is more than symbols on clay. It's a living echo of how people loved, traded, and made sense of their world. What keeps this search alive isn't just academic curiosity, but the thrill of possibility. Imagine holding a Minoan tablet and realizing those squiggles record a merchant's complaint about late shipments or a soldier's letter home. Suddenly, 3,500 years collapse into a single human moment. That's why new technologies from AI pattern recognition to multispectral imaging feel like time machines. They're not just tools, they're bridges across millennia, letting us eavesdrop on conversations that faded before the pyramids were built. But here's the beautiful paradox: the more we learn, the more we realize how much we've lost. For every Rosetta Stone, there are 100 scripts like Rongorongo, their cultural context erased by colonization or time, yet even fragments matter. The Indus Valley's cryptic symbols may never reveal full sentences, but their very existence rewrites history, proving literacy flourished along the Indus when Europe was still in the Bronze Age. Sometimes the absence of answers is its own revelation, a reminder that civilization isn't a single story, but a mosaic of voices, some shouting, some whispering, some silenced entirely. This isn't just work for scholars in ivory towers. Breakthroughs come from everywhere: a chemist noticing ink residue on the Singapore stone, a programmer spotting grammatical patterns in Linear A. Maybe you've stared at the Voynich Manuscript's strange plants and seen something experts missed. History isn't finished, it's being written right now, in labs, classrooms, and comment sections. So keep questioning, keep wondering. Who knows, the next great decipherment might begin with you hitting pause on this video, grabbing a notebook, and seeing an ancient script in a way no one else has before. Until then, the past remains our most tantalizing mystery, not locked away but waiting, patient as stone, for the right mind to listen. Don't forget to share which script captivates you most, and as always, thanks for joining the hunt. The adventure continues in the comments.